Welcome to the Lucky Trader Lounge. I'm your host, Danny Miranda, and we are joined today by Logie and Lou. We got a Monday, December 13th, and it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining me today, fellas.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to all. GM, and I would love to start today with a tweet from none other than Lou Dog Sherman, who tweeted about 20 minutes ago. 2022 is the year we will find out who was good and who was lucky. Would love to start there and expand on what exactly that means.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in 2021, especially in like the NFT space, it was a lot of like right place, right time. Things like Top Shot. Certain people got into Top Shot earlier than others. Certain people got into NFTs earlier than others. I mean, I'm one of those people as well. And I think towards the end of the year now, we're seeing some of these like influencers. There's, I don't want to say like stories coming out or anything like that, but it seems like their calls are now not hitting like they maybe were when the market was hot, or they were when they were people that had things like Top Shot. They already had their bags packed, you know? So I think 2022 is when you'll start seeing, we've talked about before, like whose wallet do you want to tail? I think 2022, where it's harder in a sense, like it's getting harder to be right at things right now. So I think 2022, we're going to be able to like separate who is just in the right place, right time versus who is actually the best at it.
Do you also have a similar perspective, Logie?
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple times. This is par for the course, though, with anything really. It's like as you pick up more data, you can figure out who's better at everything, right? Like the teams that are best win over the course of a longer season. The projects that are best win over a longer time frame. So there is no difference here. We're just amplifying it as it pertains to collectors and investors. And Lou is exactly right. We've talked about this a handful of times. Like, just because you minted a Bored Ape or whatever the case may be does not mean that over the long run you'll end up being one of or the most successful collectors or investors. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. And as Lou mentioned, of course, so much of my performance this year has been just complete luck in the right spot at the right time. So we'll see. Hopefully I can make a mark as a successful investor, but time will tell, and the market will tell. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Bored Ape in there, and the Bored Ape sale of $1.44 million happened this weekend. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. It was a good ape, but we were kind of talking about this in our group chat before, but I don't think I personally would like that ape. I like the clean apes, as they call them, and that one had a lot going on. It was the robot fur, and then it had an astronaut on. It had laser eyes. It had like a lot going on. I felt like that. I don't want to say like didn't make sense, but I like the ones where like there's this one where it was like a punk ape, they were calling it. He had like the biker jacket and earring, and it's like I like when they sort of blend together and make sense in that sense. So I mean, it was a good sale. It was, I think we saw it was like the 11th top sale of an ape. So decently high, which is good for the market.
Pretty crazy. And Logie, what was your perspective on the big sale? Any takeaways?
Nothing too crazy. Robot fur doesn't matter for those in the audience. Jason Bales wrote a great piece on Lucky Trader, taking in some data that points to which traits actually matter, and does the kind of the mid-tier rarity, which is where we'd put robot fur, does that actually have any material impact on on that particular asset? In this instance, it's a little bit murkier because there's, as Lou mentioned, there's like multiple attributes attached to this that are of varying rarities, right? But that's a good piece to check out and just get you in the right frame of mind that mid-tier doesn't matter, as Jason would say. or I guess I shouldn't speak for him. Mid-tier may not matter. We should at least leave it open-ended there. The sale, I don't know. I'm kind of unfazed at these at this point in time, which seems completely ridiculous that it could be the case. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like another day, you know?
Another day, another week in the NFT world. And on that note, I want to talk about the CloneX reveal. And you saw, Logan, a bunch of FUD and a bunch of exciting news at the same time happening on your timeline. You were mentioning this weekend on Twitter. And I'm curious, what is the takeaway from CloneX?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the takeaway is. I think we got to wait and see. The team still hasn't said anything. Things are still kind of actively. There's still like 5,000 outstanding mints, I think, which could take 6 months. It's open for 6 months. So
I'm kind of surprised that there's already been that many. Honestly, I thought we'd be like under 10K right now.
Well, the really interesting thing too, and I wrote about this in the morning piece at Lucky Trader, is this gap or the discrepancy between, we saw this right with like Bored Apes, but the discrepancy between the mint vials and the minted CloneX like continues to grow. And I actually haven't checked on it since very early this morning when I was writing the piece, but looks like the mint vial is still at like 5.15 ETH floor. So that's the...
Are they selling still at that price?
Yeah, I mean, at least as of this morning, it looks like in the last 30 minutes, there's been at least like 8 or 9 sales. I'm just trying to look at this very, very quickly. But, you know, this is what people are playing the lottery, right, Lou? This is kind of what you talked about before minting, you know, before the project even launched, was that you were taking the chance that the downside between the lottery ticket and the eventual floor was, you know, smaller than whatever the upside potential was should you have minted a rare one. I still think it's pretty crazy. You can buy 2 floor CloneX for the price of 1 mint vial. I don't know.
This goes back to this more of like a practice what you preach, I guess. But I was saying like beforehand, if you have 2, like maybe reveal 1 and sell the other. And that was originally going to be my plan, but because of how they have it set up, where they were 2 vials, you can't. It's not the lower the price idea that most of the NFTs had. So I actually set it up. I thought I was lowering the price, but I created a new order, so they both sold before. So then I bought back in after. But
well, that's because they're are they ERC 1155s? Is that why it was all FE for you, or no?
Yeah.
That's
so
just
it basically, I had
thing.
a quantity of 2, so I could do 2 orders.
Right.
And I didn't realize that when it happened. So I like woke up and I didn't have a CloneX. So I bought after when I like saw what they looked like and stuff. And but originally my plan was hold 1 and reveal 1, hoping obviously that 1 was cool. But the other thing that we've noticed, which isn't as much of a surprise, is the floor is all humans, which there's 50% of them are the human trait. So this idea of like the tier system, robot, I think is the second most common DNA type. And their floor is 3 now, which is about half an ETH higher. So I think to an extent, like the tier system, people take that into account.
And what's going on? Could you explain the difference between the mint vial and the regular?
Yeah. So they did something. I haven't really seen it done exactly this way before, but in the sale process, it's basically like getting a mint pass, but you could buy up to 3 at once, and they came in as like the same NFT into your wallet, but you could sell them separately or all of them at once. So some of them, it basically only showed like 7,500 vials, and the 7,500 vials made up 20 NFTs. So then what they did is you go to their website, and they're calling it like you bridge it, and that creates the new NFT that is the CloneX. So they're 2 separate collections, but you could do 1 at a time when you're switching from the vial to the actual NFT. So it's basically people holding their mint pass waiting to mint it right now. So I'm not sure if there's probably some math that you can do. There's like 5,000 left. Maybe they gave the average like percent chance of getting certain things. So if say they're at 15,000 right now and over half of them are humans, then the likelihood that you're going to get a human on the next one is lower. So maybe that's why the price of the vials are higher right now. I'm sure there's math and someone out there's probably doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen any sets of analysis on this yet, but Lou's exactly right. As more and more people mint, you pick up more and more information about what your vial may contain, right? Based on whatever CloneX has given us regarding the amount or the preset selection of those tiers that he was talking about. So it's a fun waiting game. We've seen this happen with serums, right? And the Bored Ape Chemistry Club, which allows you to get, which allows you to get your mutants. And there are still is it less than 1,000, or there's still quite a few outstanding serums. I saw some talk about the M2 stuff this weekend on my timeline as well. So it's interesting. It's a fun game. If you have if you have the gall to risk sitting on them, it's potentially very rewarding, especially as more and more people open theirs up or mint or bridge or whatever we want to call that, and that data gets fleshed out, and then you realize that you're either working up or down in terms of percentage probability that your thing is worth more. It's a fun little game. It's like an extension of the lottery, right? You don't even need to mint it or like scratch it off. You're playing nonetheless just by holding.
And so did both of you guys get in on the action, and how do you plan on looking at what's currently happening and saying, am I going to get involved with this in the future?
Yeah, I actually, so we talked about this before, but my plan the entire time was waiting for post-reveal drop, which we have seen. It hasn't been quite as precipitous as some of the other like hyped post.
It also came back up.
Yeah.
I think it got down to 1.7 was the lowest I saw yesterday.
Yeah. So I've not actually participated at this point in time, but that is according to my original plan, which was to wait for post-reveal drop. In my opinion here, and again, this is not financial advice, but in my opinion, the play here, if you weren't participating for, like, how Lou was describing potentially taking that lottery ticket for a high rare, the play here is like Artifact being a long-term position company that is hopefully going to generate significant returns for any and all CloneX. And so my play was, right, you're just looking at the mint vial there.
Going up.
Mm-hmm. This is the mint vial chart.
Yep, just the vial. But my play here has always been to to get the post reveal, snipe a floor, and then just sit on it and hold it. I was never gonna pay to play the lottery in the same way that Lou had talked about. Just outside of what I was comfortable, with doing in terms of, personal goals and personal finance and risk aversion. So,
and I think, and since I only had two, I think the way I was thinking about it was everyone's talking about how the price is going to go down after the reveals start. Price is going to go down. And so that's where, in my mind, I was thinking, well, I only have two. The likelihood that either of those is a rare is probably still low. So in my mind, this way, I was able to then pick one that I thought looked cool and basically choose the one I wanted versus, you get a human, you dump it at floor, because that's what a lot of people were doing. So in my mind, if I had more sort of shots at it, then I think I would have been more likely to hold all of them through reveal. But everyone is talking so negatively about it, and it's something that's going on all over NFTs right now. But I was just thinking, let me lock in a little profit here. Like if you sell at 3.5, then buy back in at 2.5, then you close the gap there versus just selling it at 2. So there was a lot of back and forth in my head on like what the correct strategy was. I don't necessarily think any strategy was wrong. Like if you're selling above what you minted for, like you can't be mad about that. That was the idea of you minting, wasn't it? So I don't really fault anyone for selling beforehand, especially if they got more than what they paid for it. But now it seems like the mood of people is kind of leveling against it. So as you can see, it's the price is rising back up.
Was the negative sentiment around the lack of the pushback of the drops time and time again, or was that unrelated to what was happening?
I think that was part of it. Logan, you muted.
My fault. Yeah, I think that was definitely part of it, but I think in large part, in at least in the last day, it was a result of completely unrelated matters. The unveiling of terms like post mint, right, was definitely something that got a lot of people riled up, especially as those terms aren't necessarily in the spirit of Web3 and decentralization, right? With the two different license types, which whatever, that one doesn't really faze me too much. I do think it's not great to have shared this information now. This is probably something that should have been shared or at least accessible, right? It's like, how many people are reading the terms? Maybe not that many, but you could just put them at the bottom of your website and like have them there for the entire time. That would have been fine. But then also the other thing was the fractionalization piece. There's a clear segment in their terms that says that, the pieces are not eligible for fractionalization, or I'm going to botch exactly how that reads, but there was some clear like distaste from, a community of folks and a spirit of an ecosystem that is about open access to things and is about decentralization and allowing for individuals to kind of actively participate, regardless. Like it's removing barriers. That's what Web3 is supposed to be about. And this is, potentially putting up a barrier, not allowing, for that fractionalization, or for folks who couldn't spend the 2.5 ETH or whatever it ends up being, to have any exposure to Artifact. You just shut people out. And there, of course, are like some legitimate regulation pieces here that we maybe not know. That's where hopefully like Artifact will come out and, provide some sort of statement here to clarify what the issue is, or why it might be the case. But nonetheless, even if they do clarify and everything's like kind of okay, there's a couple times during this that their communications to the group of investors or collectors or potential collectors has been less than ideal. And I think that's the thing you could maybe ding them for most throughout this entire thing, is like the communication has been not super great.
I think that the idea of some people are like, oh, I don't care about the fractionalization side. But in my mind, I feel like they're more of an NFT that it does matter on, because we saw, I don't know, there's 5 or 6 sales of at least 40 ETH yesterday. So like those people, if you're buying an NFT for like 50 plus Ethereum, then I think in your mind, one of the options is to fractionalize it down the road. So I think it does matter in this one a little more than others. And like you said, like it's a floor of 2.5, and some people want to get exposure to these things. And there's not that many that are popping up that have that ability right now to get up to a 5 ETH floor even. So yeah, I think it's something that it leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths, and we'll see how many people take the action of it and like avoid this project completely, and others that if they come out with a statement and it's good enough for them, then they just keep going along.
Yeah, at this point in time for me, like I said, I was waiting post reveal anyway. This was, kind of all in the cards for me. I'm not at present time in any way connected financially to Artifact. So I'm kind of an out, I'm a bystander, definitely. I would like to see them make some comments here regarding this, maybe prior to jumping in. I think a whole host of folks are maybe thinking the exact same thing. So we'll see. I do think it would be foolish of them not to comment. They're so well positioned to be super dominant, or at least like very relevant for a long, long time. They've made a ton of money already. a ton of relationships, that they've developed some really strong goodwill with this community. I think it would be silly for them not to at least like give their take. So we'll see if that comes, and then what might spark as a result of that. I don't think it's like write them off entirely. That would be maybe totally drastic at this point in time, but we'll see. We'll see what they say and how it goes.
As an avid NFT collector, what would the proper response be from your guys' perspective?
I don't know that there is like a perfect response. You're not going to be able to please everyone. I would just, some clarity and transparency regarding the decisions and why they were made. That should be sufficient for most people, I would think.
Just mostly it's like we want some form of communication is like the big thing, especially in most NFTs in general. It's like the teams that are open and honest right away, and they're willing to tell you like, hey, we screwed up here, or this is the reasoning behind why we wrote as we did. Maybe there's something that we haven't even thought about, and it happens with like Top Shot a lot, where I think there's a lot of like agreements in the back end with like the NFLPA as to why punters and kickers need moments or something like that. But I think as long as they just come out and tell us like their reasoning, and then let people decide from there, I guess.
Yeah, so this isn't obviously a rug pull, but is there a term for a situation where you buy something and you don't know the agreement, or they put in the agreement after? And what would we call that?
Yeah.
Something to consider, right?
Like an amendment.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't happen too frequently that we can avoid a naming of this convention.
Yeah, I assume that it will happen more and more as more companies get into the space, but yeah, hopefully it happens less and less. So to continue on about what this week expects, let's hop over to the good old Pepsi coming into the NFT ecosystem. You saw Gary Vee tweet about to follow Pepsi, or to keep Pepsi on your radar. The Pepsi NFT mic drop is in the name. And just first things first, what do you guys think about the art of, and I'll put it here on the screen, what do you guys think about the Pepsi NFT art for this new collection? What does this look like to you?
Less than desirable.
Oh, really? I think it's different than other ones that we've seen. Like I thought it was going to be lamer, I guess. Like I thought it was going to look exactly like the Budweiser ones, except the cans are Pepsi cans. Like I thought it was literally just going to be that.
I think I would prefer Pepsi cans to these.
But then people would be like, "Oh, you're just doing the exact same thing that Budweiser did."
I would prefer they had done the exact same thing that Budweiser did.
Have we seen any magical microphones pop up yet? We haven't seen any microphone NFTs.
I don't think that just doing something different for the sake of doing something different is necessary. There are points in time to certainly take a different path, and there are plenty of pros for doing so. Why the hell mic drop NFT? Like
they're appealing to the podcasters.
No, it's very silly. I don't know. In terms of the art, like there's nothing here for me. I think it's very silly that they are mic drops. Now, does that mean that like don't actively? I didn't get on the whitelist, so I'm not participating. The whitelist was like instant, basically. That it was gone. So Pepsi coming in, Pepsi doing stuff, Pepsi doing ERC 721s, using IPFS, like all those things are positives. That's great. That's totally cool.
Phrases like WGMI and friend, and people are freaking out about that. They're just calling it cringe. At least they're free, right? That's Jason.
Well, Jason brings up a great point. It's like they are free. So
you said that the list, right?
Yeah. So is that a good sign for you guys?
Yeah, and let like the market decide.
Yeah, I do prefer that. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, Lou, one of the group chats as well, about decreasing the barrier to entry for a lot of these projects. Like you see so many projects that start at like 0.08 ETH, 0.09 ETH. And then you start to, I know we don't like to do it, but when you start to do the USD conversion there, you're removing a whole host of potential participants right off the bat. You're decreasing the ability for your project to mint out, at least for a lot of these projects that are, smaller and come with less hype as it is. So when you decrease, and of course Pepsi didn't need to do so, but when you decrease that entry cost, you just, you're bringing in less money off the bat, right? If you're the team or you're the founders or whatever, but you're opening yourself up to just a much larger potential collector demographic. Instead of, talk about total addressable market. Well, when your project costs $1,000 to enter, that market's a whole lot smaller than if it's 0 or 50 or 100. And understand like gas fees, right? All that stuff, just add it into your cost basis. So, if you're doing it at 0.08 and then you consider the gas fees, like you're asking people to spend $400+ routinely for one, right? And so, good on Pepsi for that. I do think that's a really strong move to include that as a free. Now we could debate the whitelist stuff, whether it's fair, whether it's not, whatever. There's lots to potentially debate there, but overall, I think this is about as well as you could do for a big brand coming in that is likely to draw scrutiny regardless of what they do. You're never going to please everybody, of course. And so I think this is pretty well done, given those things. I wish they would have picked something other than stupid mics, though.
What about Pepsi coming in and the brands coming in and using the phrases and terminology of Web3? How did you guys react to that?
The best tweet I saw was someone said after, they're like, now you guys realize how cringe you've been this whole time. And I thought of that. I was like, I don't know. When people use the word friend, FREN, that's always kind of been a little cringe to me. And this goes back to when I was first trading back in like February. If you bought an NFT from someone who was like an artist, they would DM you and like thank you about it and things like that. And I'd gotten some of those, and whenever they use the word friend, I felt a little weirder about it. I don't know why, but it's like they're trying to fit in, but like overdoing it. They're just like pressing it on you, like, oh look, we learned this is what you guys say. So I don't know. It still feels a little forced, I guess.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I've mentioned a couple times that like I would like to see some of the brands embrace some of the Web3/NFT Twitter stuff. And I think Lou's right. That tweet about like, this is how insufferable or like annoying you guys have been the entire time. That's it. That's totally it. I get it. And I understand why it seems so ridiculous to see somebody outside the circle use it. Totally get it. And it is cringy now that you like see it. It's like one of those things where like, the glass shatters for you and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that thing or saying that thing or whatever for so long. So I think it's fine. Whatever. It really doesn't bother me too much. You just kind of move beyond it.
Yeah, that's the thing about the entire space is we want to bring more people in. We want to be more inclusive to more people. So I guess my question to you guys is like, how do we make that happen? Is it the language? Is it the terminology? Is it changing it? Is it making that available to more people? What's your guys' perspective on bringing more people into the NFT ecosystem?
Yeah, I think that's where it's like, I don't know. I just feel like them having the drop was good enough for me. Like them being part of it, they're showing the interest in it. They want to be a part, but it's like Jason was saying, like it's all of them interacting with each other that feels like weird. Like, would they do that in practice as businesses? Like Pepsi and Budweiser aren't going to like team up for anything, So that's the part of it that it's like, I don't know. Which one I'd be excited to see, because I feel like they're pretty good on Twitter, is Wendy's. Wendy's always had a pretty good Twitter account. I wonder if they're going to get into the game and start using some terminology.
Yeah. But Steakums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. In terms of like getting people in, I mean, this is what you have to do, right? You have to have Pepsi do all this obnoxious stuff so that it opens the door to other people that are just regular people following Pepsi on Twitter. Whether you're an avid Pepsi drinker or Pepsi collectible collector, whatever the case is, Pepsi tweeting about it, just like Jimmy Fallon tweeting about it. All of those things are introducing this to more and more eyeballs, and that is a win. So as egregious and like cringe vomit worthy as it seems to be involved in it right now, in that back and forth banter of all the just acronyms that make no sense to anyone else, more or less, should they continue to do so and continue to look to pull people in for the right reasons and expose people in a positive way, expose people to Web3, not expose people, but should they continue to do so, I'm all for it. So Pepsi can tweet GM every freaking morning. I don't care. Bring more people in, pump our bags, whatever, right? That's what people want. So might as well.
Yeah, and so let's continue on the news for this week. I know that Logan, you tweeted about the digital animals pre-sale. You like the digital animals a lot, and you were curious about them. So, what was it about the digital animals that got you going?
So, full disclosure, in terms of liking them a lot, this is not something that I think I'm like actively participating in. I just think it's unique and interesting. Like, first of all, from the digital animals link, they're kind of cool looking, like they're crystallized animals. The really unique part to me is this part about each animal having a unique soul. So the pre-sale goes live in like, I don't know, 90 minutes or something. I don't have access to the pre-sale, so unfortunately won't be able to mint, but each digital animal algorithm generates a soul for all these little NFTs based on wallet and sentiment analysis of the individual's Twitter, which is kind of cool. This is where, like, we talked about this with Matt Haynes Gazers last week, like some dynamic, unique, innovative things as it pertains to utilizing NFTs and the data within them, and kind of dynamically updating as a result of the moon phases and stuff. This is unique. I have no clue how it's going to, particularly operate or what impact it may have. If you scroll down a little bit more, like there's eventually a game coming. Keep going. Or maybe it was above. I'm not sure. You might need to keep scrolling. Wherever it is, there's like, there's a game coming, and like it kind of shows you this, there's your wolf if you were a wolf walking through. And what, I'm making a lot of leaps and assumptions here, but like your wolf would have attributes and a soul based on your wallet and your Twitter sentiment. Like this is maybe a better way, or at least not a better way, but let's say this is an attempt at kind of putting you in the metaverse in a way that is different than just like giving you a character that you could build with particular attributes. This is like trying to pull a little bit beyond, like based on your tweets and based on what you've collected. So Lou's profile of all just MFers, like his wolf or whatever, would be total DGAF, right? I don't know.
This is super cool to me, where it's like, and I hadn't heard about it until you had brought it up, but people always talk about like, what's your spirit animal? And I feel like this could be like a way to have a spirit animal, like in realistic. And I think it's tough because it's the 0.1 initial cost, and then it's not that high of a count, which doesn't mean they're not going to like add later or anything with like future drops, and they're going to have like other, but I think it'd be cool to have one. And it's the type of NFT that someone would be more likely to hold because they want to see how it evolves. So it's like really interesting if it works. It'll be interesting to see like how it works and how it actually evolves. The thing with the gazers, one thing I saw a person is like, yeah, mine changes once every 35 years. They're like, so my grandkids might be able to see what it looks like later. But it'd be interesting to see how often this evolves. If it's like based on every tweet that you make, or if it's like after a month, it takes all of them together and develops it into like one thing. So I think it'll be cool to watch it.
Yeah, I think the spirit animal analogy there is like spot on. Though you don't control, of course, unfortunately, right? Like I think lots of people want to pick their spirit animal, and in this instance, you're kind of randomly generating an animal, and then the attributes, pertinent to your soul would be kind of laid on top of this animal. So you don't necessarily get to choose, but it's pretty sweet. I think it's cool. I've seen some people in the Lucky Trader community Discord talking about this actually for a while. This has been one like that. There's been plenty of work. Yeah, if you couldn't tell just from like the cursory scroll on the site, like this is one that has definitely had some some work put into it. This isn't one that you can just copy paste, throw it up on the site and have something go through. It's definitely unique. It's definitely innovative. Like this is the type of stuff that I want to see more of. This is introducing plenty of execution risk. This is what happens when you try to innovate in this way, right? It's like you got to do it and you have to do it well, because if it breaks and it doesn't work, like boop, dead. Like the whole project may just kind of fade away. And but yeah, we'll see. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. This is just the pre-sale. Again, just the pre-sale happening today at 1 p.m. Eastern time at digitalanimals.club. About 1 hour, 23 minutes from right now. So we'll see how that goes. But my guess is that something like this could certainly take off. And anything with a pre-sale, well, I guess everything has a pre-sale, but anything that does well in pre-sale normally gives you some indication of like what the public sale might look like.
So there's 14 people on this team already, and they haven't sold anything yet. That's pretty crazy. Is that typical? Is that high? What, like 14 people seems like a lot to have just on one single team before even selling anything. And it might be good, but it seems like there's a lot of thought that went into this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is good. I think it demonstrates the care and the time and attention and the energy and the effort that has been given to a project of hopefully what they're hoping, right, is of notable nature. The other thing there is that it's just, if you're willing to commit the time and resource for this many people to something, hopefully is sharing with you some conviction from the team side as well. I don't know. I don't know that it's customary. My guess is that this is many more than most NFT projects. Like typically when you scroll through a project's team page, it's like, here's our dev, here's our artist, here's the community manager. Yeah, 3 or 4 people. So we should obviously not just jump into, oh, this is definitely good because there's more people or anything like that. But I do think it is unique. It is not the typical experience as compared to other NFT projects. And it is probably a sign that there has been a lot of time and attention given to this project.
Something we haven't seen is, we've seen a 4-person team and we've seen a 10-person team and we've seen 100,000 person companies in Pepsi. I don't know how many employees Pepsi has, but a mega corporation and Budweiser. But we haven't really seen like 100-person company or 1,000-person company come in to the NFT ecosystem. If I'm not mistaken.
Are you saying like a startup, basically, like a small?
Yeah, like 100 or 1,000-person, well-established. Maybe I don't know, but it's just interesting to see the scope of the projects has been very small or very large, but rarely in the middle.
There might be, but yeah, it's the type of thing where it's like, would we know that they are? Yeah, that's sort of what you're saying, right? It's like either a lot of these are Anon teams or they come from being in NFTs already versus, someone in between. I mean, I'm trying to think of examples. I don't know, like the teams, like sports teams that have done it, maybe. I guess they're kind of in that, but they're also like big, right? How do you guys feel about this type of stuff? This is the AR, right? Versus
isn't this pretty
augmented.
Sweet? This is digital animal. Cool. This is digital animal still.
Yeah. Did you guys ever do that with your Zed horse?
I did not. No.
I had a picture that I had where I had like all my Zed horses, and then I like had my dog next to it. Yeah, it's like got the farm already. But the augmented reality stuff is kind of cool. Yeah, you can like
This is
pretend like it's there with you.
Do you know the show with Lin-Manuel? I just read all the books and I'm totally, or not all the books, but the first book, I'm totally blanking on it. The
Hamilton.
No, that's Lin-Manuel. It's I'm gonna blank on it. But anyway, like they have like their own little like animals that go with them. Jesus, I'm totally blanking on
Harry
the book.
Potter?
No, not Harry Potter. It's Harry Potter like His Dark Materials. You guys know what I'm talking about? Have you seen His Dark Materials? Read? No. Okay. They have like their own little individual like spirit animals. And when I was looking at the AR version of that, I think it was a bat, right, that I just showed. That would be kind of interesting if you had your digital animal, right, that you could kind of bring around with you in the metaverse. Like that's pretty sweet. That's pretty cool. We'll see how it does, and if people like that or not. But unique, yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And thank you, Logie, for bringing that to our radar. Also, want to talk about the Art Blocks curated Jen Stork's Vortex dropping, I believe, today at 1 p.m.
Like
Eastern.
An hour and a half.
Yeah. So we were talking about Art Blocks last week a little bit, but what's your guys' perspective on this drop?
Yeah. One thing I noticed in this one is it starts at 5, the Dutch auction, which is low compared to what they've been doing, at least recently. I think, did the last one start at 15 maybe? But I think it'll put some pressure on to people and like making decisions, because within the first like half hour, instead of last time it was an hour in or so, this one thing we talked about with Tyler is she's a known artist, which I think gets a little more hype around it. And the fact that she's a female artist, I think also is something that people look at. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. It's like a little trippy. There's like a lot of these like spiral type. I don't know if you've seen any of her other art, but she kind of has that style to it. I'm excited to watch it. I don't know at what price I would go in. I think it sort of depends. Like it's starting at 5 is really confusing me, because I could see it going really early because of that. I don't know if that like helps or hurts it.
I think we're gonna see. So like when we talked with Tyler last week, he spent quite a bit of time like not telling people, but having people try to think about reframing their expectations on Art Blocks as a result of like actually the collections and the artists, as opposed to Art Blocks itself, or Art Blocks curated versus Playground versus Factory, right? I think though that we may see foolhardy market type stuff where people see that last week's Art Blocks curated kind of went bonkers and just expect the same thing and don't necessarily apply those layers of, is this a good artist? Is it, which it is, of course, right? Like anybody that gets selected for Art Blocks curated is pretty notable in some way or another. But I'm just kind of expecting that the market will sort of act on the totality of the Art Blocks curated from last week and its performance, as opposed to isolating this a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. This is interesting. Yeah. So the whole thing is based on spirals. It's about the phenomena of spirals and the ubiquitous nature of it throughout kind of the natural world. If you read the Vortex description, one of the interesting things, I'm going to move off here. I'm going to stay on Jen Stark, but interesting to this is as I was doing research about Jen Stark and her work as an artist and stuff, is she has a creator coin on Rally actually. And I think it's like probably way too early for, I tweeted this just before the show, but I think it's like way too early probably for the creator coin movement and for people to really start to like look for ways to find inefficient markets and things like that. But I'm sort of intrigued to see, if Jen Stark has a super notable drop here today. Oh, it's actually, is it up from when I have the page up to, no, it's down. Never mind. From when I loaded it a little bit ago, it was 0.282. I have no clue what our expectations should be here, if there should be any. But we spent a whole lot of time talking about different potential arbitrage opportunities from artists that are on different platforms or on different blockchains. I'm just curious to see if anything happens. Like if Jen Stark runs a super awesome, everything sells out at 5 ETH. Does anything happen to her creator coin? And should anything happen? Maybe not. But it's just, one of these first ones where I've seen, as I've done more, she has obviously put a lot of time and attention into her work. Is certainly convicted in her work, confident in her abilities as a creator, and is standing behind them by building a creator coin. That's pretty cool. So also another way, talk about fractionalization and the lack thereof for CloneX. Let's say you can't afford Jen Stark. You could buy on fractional.art, assuming somebody creates a vault, right? So that's great. But if you didn't want to mess with that, and maybe you just want to, stamp down some Jen Stark attachment or lever yourself to her performance, you could buy the creator coin, which comes with, perks itself. It kind of acts like, an NFT. It's an ERC20 token. You can read more about it, the link in my tweet, but comes with some like tiered benefits and exclusive drops and stuff like that as well.
Why do you guys think that we haven't seen Rally creator coins really take off?
I just think
it's weird to people.
Yeah. I mean, there was that, what was it called? BitConnect? No, not BitConnect.
BitClout.
BitClout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was, they were trying to do stuff like that. Yeah, I think part of it is just a lot of people don't know it exists, or people feel weird about it. Like just paying people for their clout in that sense. There's two sides to it, because I think with BitClout, like a lot of people are excited. They're like, oh, I can bet on a person. You think of it as like you're betting on a person, but then it becomes like, I don't know, it could be Ponzi-like, where people load up paying on one person and then they just dump on other people. Like it could still get to that point. So I think that might be what was weird about it. I don't know.
Yeah, we should say that this is not BitClout related. Although they do have similar, like people are trying to use them as similar mechanics, as Lou mentioned, like betting on a person, more or less. Yeah, I think it's not natural. It is definitely a like newer innovation with like Web3 and just the entire emergence of the creator economy as a whole, and now you're kind of merging those two things together as well. I think it'll become more ubiquitous over time. I don't have an answer as to really why. There's like so many of these things that are like, well, why aren't more people doing this? Like it makes so much sense in so many different ways. They don't know about it. A lot of people just don't even know about it. So yeah.
Do you think something like this is inevitable to take off because the incentives will be there, or do you think that it's just not going to see the shine that NFTs did per se, or is NFTs a way to bet on a person, and is that going to be the way to bet on the person?
I think NFTs actually have a better chance probably at holding to these things. A lot of the stuff that I think about as a potential, like, I don't know that you'd call me a creator, right? But as a creative person that's hopefully building things, is like, when you can't shut it off. Like if you shut it off, like the market's dead and everybody's wrecked. Like how does that work? Whereas like NFTs, you're not necessarily stuck with the utility building constantly. Although people are looking for that, right? Like this is kind of that punks apes thing, right? Like apes need to now build forever, more or less. Maybe not forever, right? But they've got to build for a long time. And that's kind of what they've put in people's heads and people are accustomed to now. Like if they just stop building, people are going to be like, what the F? Like, why are you not doing anything now? And so as a creator, like a creator coin, you can't stop. And that's something like, to me, I want to be able to stop at some point, and I'm not exactly sure how that works. So
speaking on the apes building, I have to mention Bored Ape Yacht Club announces today that it has partnered with, I don't know how to pronounce that, Animoco Brands to launch a blockchain NFT game. From the announcement, the new game is expected to release in Q2 of 2022 and will feature play-to-earn mechanics. Interesting news to you guys, expected in some respect, but just to have this announcement and a date or a month or a time to expect it is good news per se. And what's the take on this?
Yeah, I think it was expected in the idea that they were going to be creating a game at some point. Obviously, that the mobile app game kind of failed for them already, so maybe this one's just going to be a little more legit in that sense. Yeah, I haven't heard of that specific brand, but I mean, it's something we've talked about a lot before. Like they have a good amount of funding that they should be able to produce something that's pretty strong. But it goes back to how long it takes to make a game. Like, I don't know, will we even see this game in 2022? Who knows? Like, I would guess not in the first half of 2022. Like it should take at least 6 months to create a game, right? Um, so I think it's just another thing that they're trying to give back to people buying in and making sure that they're getting I don't want to say like they're getting their money's worth, but they're still providing value to people in ways that people want P2E games, like they keep talking about it. So it's just another way that they're trying to give back to people with their continued utility.
Yeah, I think that it's something we'll be talking about more and more in the coming weeks, months. And so it's definitely something to keep an eye on. We got Jason here wants us to talk about lemons. Okay, you got it, Jason. We got the Little Lemons Friends reveal. After some discussion regarding an optimal reveal time, the Little Lemon Friends team has pushed back the expected reveal of their 9,999 piece collection until 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. The collection sold out around 6,000 pieces that were remaining after the private sale in about 1 hour yesterday. Any takes on the Little Lemons? The Little Lemon Friends reveal?
They passed the cute factor, I'd say. They're I don't want to say they're backed by they had some connection to Cool Cats. I think Cool Cats knows some of the members on the team. I forget what the exact thing was. I think they got brought up in like the town hall.
They were on the pre-sale.
If you had a Cool Cat, you could be on Cool
yeah.
Sale. Okay. Yeah. So I think they have that going for them a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, I bought into them. I thought they were kind of cool idea. And their Discord, I don't know if you are in their Discord, Logan, but their Discord's hilarious. They have great gifts, they have great emotes, and I don't know, I kind of like them.
What makes their Discord so great, Lou?
People seem actually positive in there, and they're just they spam the emotes, and like the emotes are these little lemons like that, and they're like dancing, and there's a bunch of like different cool stuff they have in there. So I'm excited to see what they look like. One concern someone said to me was, do they have enough traits? Like, are they all just gonna look alike? So I guess we'll see on the reveal. Like, there's a lot of times where they reveal price action, but I mean, they're only 0.04 right now, so they don't really have much downside right now. But the upside is, people joke about them and meme on Twitter or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're like 0.24 or something. So I think they have the meme ability. So it'll be interesting to see after the reveal what happens.
I don't have too much to say about lemons. Full disclosure, I do own lemons. I don't exactly know why. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. They are revealing later tonight. We'll see what happens.
What do you mean you don't exactly know why? Like, why did you end up purchasing?
FOMO. Had some friends like Silly Lou and Jason that minted lemons, and was like, yeah, you know what? We were talking earlier, actually, like we were talking earlier about entry points. And like when your entry point is 0.25 or sorry, 0.025, you make it a little bit easier for degen folks like myself to come in and on top of like new collectors as well, right? But like you do allow for some more degeneracy, and that's what this was for me. I should also note this is my girlfriend minted a couple. It was her first ever mint, so she's rooting hard for lemons as well. But I'm fully prepared for it to go to zero. and we'll find something else to do with lemons. But as Lou mentioned, it did seem like, a pretty positive community. I am in the Discord. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Lots of lemon emojis, but
I like using those emotes. I mean, I don't know, do you have to have Nitro to do it? But like going into a different Discord and using the lemons like dancing, like I'm doing that now. It's kind of fun.
Trolling. The
I
troll.
mean, those
Lou.
are the type of communities. It's kind of fun where they do that. I don't want to say that like it's looks like they're trying more, but it seems like they're trying to make something fun out of it. It's not just like they disappear right away or even not have a Discord. There's some projects that they don't even create a Discord, and then you bought in and you don't know anything about what's going on. So I don't know. For me, it's just like they were cheap. They were like 0.025. Like it's not like what was the other one? The digital animals are 0.1 to mint. So you can get 4 lemons for the price of that, and gas wasn't crazy either. So it's worth a little shot for me.
Makes sense. And so was this the Logan tweeted he minted his first citrus NFT? Was that the lemons or was that something else?
Yeah, was that Pepsi?
was it the lemons? I don't know. I'm starting a competing lime project.
Oh, that's great. Let's thrust this bad boy into the limelight. Very good pun by Master Logie there. Well, this wraps up, I think, a wonderful discussion of CloneX, Pepsi. We did a little Bored Ape Yacht Club. We did a little Lemon Friends. I mean, we covered a lot here today. Anything else we need to discuss before we head to a close? Lower Logie?
No, I feel like we talked about a lot of like the big stuff. There's going to be another, I think NFL All Day is going to have more packs come out today. We didn't really talk about them. I'm not sure how much we're supposed to talk about them, but they didn't have that many packs that came out. But one thing someone mentioned to me is it was interesting because with Top Shot, if a pack drop came out, you see all these people that are posting like what they got. And we didn't get that with this. So I don't know if that just means like everyone's honoring the idea of closed beta, which obviously would be cool, or if there just weren't enough packs that came out for us to notice that.
Or if the packs sucked.
Yeah. So, I mean, as someone who's part of the beta, I would, if you guys could just like, let me get a pack and let me get one of these punter moments. That's all I ask for.
What's with your obsession with punter moments, Lou?
I think it's just kind of funny. People are just like ripping them apart for having punter moments. And we talked about this on the spaces last week that we thought it would be cool for them to include punters, like they're players in the game. But I think the problem was they had them as a legendary moment. So I don't know. I think all day stuff is going to be something to track for the next like month or so.
Yeah. I think Jacqueline's comment there, the player list was pretty rough. I think one of the things that like it caught me by surprise, and I don't know that maybe I just missed announcements about this or what, but it caught me by surprise that the moments were week 13 specific.
Yeah.
Did people like, was that announced and people missed it or what? I guess
my thought is it was like an agreement that started week 13. Like they couldn't get any of the highlights before or something.
Perhaps. I guess I was just under the assumption, like, I was comparing this apples to apples with Top Shot, right? So I was expecting, even though there's been plenty of criticism, rightfully so, about the moments in Top Shot as well, I was expecting more like highlighty type stuff from the entirety of the season. I totally get if there was contractual obligations that made it just week 13 specific. I have a lot to say on this subject. I'm not sure we need to really go too deep into it. Maybe it's for a different time. And I'm sure my opinion may be controversial as well to many, but I am also like, I just think the punter moments are ridiculous. I think it's unnecessary. I don't think Top Shot and Dapper needs to do exactly what all the card companies do unless they're contractually obligated to include everyone. And if they are, just tell us that that's the case. Why make punter moments legendary? Who the hell wants to pay for a pack that has punter moments in it? I don't know. I just like, I keep doing this thing back and forth that to me, Dapper and Top Shot and All Day has like the opportunity to be something so much more than what we've come to assume is customary for collecting cards, right? They don't have to be those companies, and I don't think they should have to operate as them as well. And so just because Panini puts in a freaking kicker card or whatever doesn't mean Top Shot needs to do it too, unless contractually obligated, at which point just, make sure somebody tells me that. But yeah, I mean, I wish I would have known that it was week 13 specific. Like, I don't know how many people actually knew that, or I guess it was on the pack, right? So maybe people knew that prior to buying, but I was of the same exact thing where I was like, yeah, this doesn't look great. Some of these players people haven't even heard of. And I mean, like, I get it. Like, all the rookie cards still get printed. I totally get it, but you can find some better stuff or just do less moments, And I think one of the things that like Dapper has gotten some criticism about is supply, right? And so now they're going to print moments every single freaking week, and they're going to sell hundreds of thousands of packs every single week. Like, talk about cash grab. Like those feels like you have to understand why people are feeling that, right? Whether it's warranted or not, you've got to at least understand, like, optically why it looks like there's a cash grab. You're freaking, selling. They sold another 240,000 Top Shot packs last week for $9 that are all worth $0 now. You know what I mean? And the utility to utilize them is like really not there yet. So I don't know.
People are smarter now, and I'm not saying that against people, but it's the idea that we're seeing more things in how they fail in other NFT projects and noticing cash grabs in other NFT projects. And I think they're transferring that experience over to this experience. And it's tough because with traditional physical card markets, like, you buy a pack, you're almost always getting, like, I'm not sure how many come in like a specific pack, but let's say it's 10. For every 10 cards you get, like 9 of them are probably worth $0. So I think in that sense, it's like that's what the traditional market is like. But maybe they were, I don't know. The early on experience was different, so I think that's still in the back of their minds.
Yeah. So I talked to Mike Leone a lot about this. Folks from the DFS industry would recognize Mike, and he is very, very well attuned to what's happening in like the traditional card space, physical cards as well. And he had given a lot of really great points about kind of why it's necessary, and the whole point you're just mentioning, Lou, about like bringing down the expected value of packs is like kind of a necessity in some way, right? You can't just keep doing the free money thing forever. And apparently that was a lot of the feedback that Top Shot had gotten was, bring down the EV of packs. And to do so, you have to, like, 1, up supply of moments, right? And 2, potentially like make not all the moments super, super awesome moments. And so I get that. I'm just like, I don't personally, this is a personal opinion here, I don't think Top Shot or Dapper Labs and All Day need to be playing cards or, cards like the traditional market. The demographic for that is dying. Like, they don't have to be them. And it feels like they're trying to be them, and they're replicating all the same things that all those other companies do. And again, I get it if it's like they're kind of bound by the licensing agreements that the NFL is, hey, here's our IP, but you can only do XYZ. Totally understand that. I don't know. As a collector, like, and I collected cards growing up, but I'm in no way at present time, and some of this has to do with the money, of course, but like in no way at present time am I energized about collecting All Day or Top Shot. Not a single bit. I have no interest. Actually, earlier this year, I was like basically buying every pack drop, right? Not right now. Like,
because they were heavily.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
I think there's stuff that I want to collect on there. I'd say that. And I think right now it's if I'm collecting punters and kickers, it's out of just the fun of it. I'm not like expecting to turn them into like some big thing, but I do now have this theory that legendary punter moment is going to end up being worth more than some of the other moments, just because it's like the joke behind it in that sense. So I don't know. I kind of want one, and I'm assuming other people are going to want one as a joke. Like we've seen this happen with things like Reddit is known for this, where there'll be like a poll to name. It was I always remember the one that was like Mountain Dew, and it's like name our next flavor, and then they just troll and they just give like the worst names of flavors, and that's like the one that wins. So I think in my mind, like that could happen with these punter moments where they end up being better than like the backup running back moment or something like that. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see, but yeah, as of now, it seems like the all day product is going to be more towards like the collector side versus like people buying in just straight up to make money. So it'll be interesting to see. And something that you mentioned before was, are we going to tell our friends who've been waiting for this about it? Like, are we going to be excited to get them into the product? I think that'll be
Well,
something to see.
I think that's another reason why it needs to not be cards. How many of your friends are collecting cards? And maybe you're a bad example, Lou, right? Because like you're close to the sports scene as well. But like, if your friends are just casual football fans, they're not collecting cards. And if I tell them that, oh, hey man, like go collect some cards online, they're like, I don't collect cards as is. Why the hell would I go collect cards online? You know what I mean? And that's another reason to me where you've got to be a little different. You have to be able to like generate some sense of excitement about why would I get someone involved to when they can go to Target and buy a card for, you know, a pack for $5 and get the exact same experience because it's digital. Okay. I mean, like there's some unique stuff there, definitely. But one of the things that the digital nature allows is like for all the other innovation and utility on top.
This is what
we don't see that yet. Like we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, this is what Danny Cole was saying in a recent tweet about how the first movies were actually just plays. And obviously, a movie is much more than just a play. But when the technology of a movie came out, of something being recorded that you could post, people just used that and put plays on it. And we saw this with the internet as well, when the first media websites were just newspapers, and newspapers put on a online homepage. Obviously, an online homepage could be so much more. Same thing is happening with playing cards right now, and these pack drops. It's like people are just taking, for the most part, the companies are taking the cards and are saying, okay, can we make this the exact same thing or something incredibly similar to it? And it could be so much more.
Yeah, well, the weird thing here is I think expectation wise, it's been different. Like I think Top Shot Dapper has tried to create the expectations that this is so much more,
Right.
but it's not now. Right. And that's where the big disconnect is. Like, I can't get someone excited if they aren't, you know, if they are collecting cards as it, if you're a collector, right? Like this was Leone's point to me is like, this is kind of what he expected. And he is a big time collector. And so like to him, he's okay with this.
Deal.
Right. Exactly. And so if you're those people, that's fine. And I totally get that. But that demographic of people is quite small, in my opinion. It is shrinking. And if you are Dapper, you need to be able to consider we talk about addressable markets. Like, how do you get more people in? Well, people came into Top Shot because of the free money. Free money is gone. They lowered the EV of packs. Makes sense. Good. Okay, cool. But how do you bring in new people now? Well, you bring in new people that don't collect cards, probably, right? And are you going to bring them in if the experience is just like collecting cards?
I don't know. Because in my mind, I feel like to an extent, you want to get people that collect cards and turn them to, you already collect cards. How about you don't wait a year to get your cards graded? You can get it instantly and it's held digitally and you can show your friends on your phone. In my mind, that's how I got into Top Shot originally. I was like, I don't want to sit around a year to get these cards. That
I get that, Lou. I think you're right. From my standpoint, though, Top Shot has promised much more than that, right? Or Dapper, right, has promised much more than that. We haven't seen it, so that's one. And then two, I think that is very, very narrow-minded. If you're a company in that position with that IP, I think it's super. And of course, they're licensing it, right? So, like again, there could be complete restrictions that we just are unaware of for whatever reason, but. I think it is very narrow to put yourself in just the digital card collecting space. That's my take on it. And like my friends, that I've been bugging about NFTs and like trying to get to buy NFTs, this was the best chance to get them in Top Shot.
Do they just need a competitor to
Maybe.
come in and be better?
And maybe that's what DK's stuff will be, right? Like maybe, right? Who knows?
Unfortunately, I don't think DK is going to be better.
Well, probably not. But like again, this was and it still could be, right? It still could be. And I hope I'm proven wrong. But this was the best chance for me to get my normie friends into buying their first NFT. It was all day. And when I have to be transparent with them about the fact that like, oh, you're just opening a pack of cards online and right now there's nothing else on top of it. When I give them that, they're not going to buy because they didn't buy Top Shot for the exact same reason.
What would convince them to buy?
I think it seems really, terrible just to use this word in a way that is really not descriptive at all. But I do think like some innovative utility, right? Top Shot did a little bit with like the fandom stuff this summer, right? Something like that. You own a Steelers set and you get X% off a Steelers ticket, whatever. Like small things like that could be options, maybe aren't options. Maybe that's not even enough. But I think adding those things in, being transparent about those, marketing those as opposed to just come own this moment. I just think there's a better chance there. Like, again, I've been thinking about this all weekend because I pushed the all-day wait list to all my friends when it came out. And I was like, you guys are going to want to participate in this. And now I've got to follow back up with them, and like, what do I say about why they want to participate? How do I tell them that they should participate in this? I don't know yet. Like, I don't know. Because here's the other concern is like, because they aren't free money packs, right? My friends, like, they need a reason like that justifies the financial cost as well. And sports cards don't really do that. If you're collecting to collect, okay. But like, let's be honest about the people that are going to potentially join this thing. They're probably not collecting to collect, not just purely to collect. And I think that would be more okay if there was stuff on top. I don't know what the stuff on top is. And I've probably walked myself in the circle and like, I could be talked, in plenty of different directions. I'm sure there's a lot of great arguments to every single thing I said. And I'm happy to hear those. This isn't necessarily the time to go through it in great detail, but I was pretty disappointed if my tweets, tweets, you couldn't tell from my tweets.
Here's how I see it is we've seen like there's a lot of podcasts that have come out specific to Top Shot. There's a lot of influencers that have come out because of Top Shot. And I feel like we've heard way cooler ideas from those people than what actually came out in practice. So I wonder how much of it is like we actually can't do this stuff and people get told, oh, that would be super cool if they did this or that. And then people think in their minds that it's Dapper that said they're going to do this. But in reality, they never agreed to it or like said stuff like that. So I think to an extent, maybe people hold them at a higher regard because they've heard people talk about all these cool things that are possible, but are they actually possible?
Just say they're not possible.
I know, but I feel like they have denied a lot of things over time, but I just think it's more for me, not like they're not going to go through every podcast and see what people are saying. But
no,
like,
I know.
Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you had a full set of Warriors moments and you got to meet Steph Curry? Like, and people say things like that. And then people that are listening and watching their podcast are thinking that's something that maybe Dapper said before, So that's more for me. What I'm saying is it's not like Dapper can't go through every single thing people are saying and deny what they're saying is true. I just think in this specific to Top Shot, there's more people that have talked about it over this year than just random other NFTs, more eyes on it. They have, hundreds of thousands of users. So I think that has kind of shot them in the foot a little bit as well, where people are talking about all the cool ideas that are possible and they haven't
none of them are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely shooting yourself in the foot when you have the potential to do a lot of really cool things.
Yeah. When rake
and
back, you know?
when rake back, right?
Did they ever say that they were going to do rake back,
I
or are
think
those
so,
just
right?
people telling us that? Well, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know if it was just
I don't
because
know.
we keep hearing people talking about it.
I mean, even aside from rake back, like how many things have they talked about, like legitimately, like Roham's commented on, that have just not ever happened, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a totally fair gripe, is like, if this organization, which organization alone, right, Flow as a blockchain, like plenty of centralization concerns, like there's so much you can point to here, and there's never ever going to be a win. You're never going to make everybody happy, and that's like a definite thing that is true in every sense of every traditional Web3, whatever. You can't make everybody happy, but you can communicate effectively, and you can like maybe execute on the things that you say you're going to execute on, and then hopefully favor is turned, and sentiment is turned into a positive, and they haven't done it. So we'll see.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm excited to see how that unfolds and the development unfolds. NFL all day. The first impressions were not super positive, but we'll see how that plays out over the coming weeks, months, and years. Boys, this has been a great session, great times, and we will continue the conversation on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Lucky Trader Lounge. Thank you all for joining us, and that's all for me and the folks here at the Lucky Trader Lounge. Peace.